The citadel of Elion Prime had been built to outlast civilizations. Its white pillars climbed into a vaulted ceiling veined with light, its floors polished to a mirror sheen that reflected the gathered powers of the galaxy. Tonight, that reflection shimmered with celebration. Holographic banners drifted above the assembly, each bearing the sigil of a member species. At the center of the chamber, a rotating projection displayed the final battle, enemy vessels breaking apart under coordinated fire, their black hulls dissolving into drifting fragments. The image looped, a carefully edited certainty. "We stand at the close of a long darkness," intoned high speaker Reeler, his tall, translucent frame glowing faintly as he addressed the chamber. "The silent extinction has been eliminated. Across our systems, the threat has ceased." Applause rippled through the tiers. Some species clicked their mandibles in approval, others emitted soft harmonic tones. Humans clapped. It was a shared language of relief. Commander Elias Varen did not join in. He stood near the edge of the chamber, just beyond the brightest light. His uniform, dark utilitarian, looked out of place among ceremonial robes and diplomatic regalia. Dust still clung to the seams, faint scratches scored the fabric at his forearms, and a fresh line of dried blood marked the cuff he had not bothered to clean. Victory, they called it. Elias watched the projection complete another cycle. The enemy's ships disintegrated again. The same angle. The same explosion. A clean ending, repeated until it felt true. He exhaled slowly. "Commander," said a voice beside him. Elias turned. Counselor Thesha stood there, her silver skin catching the ambient light. Her posture was composed, almost statuesque, her expression unreadable but attentive. "You are not celebrating," she observed. "I'm observing," Elias replied. "The distinction is unnecessary. The war is concluded." Elias's gaze drifted back to the projection. "Concluded implies we understand what we fought." Thesha inclined her head slightly. "We understand enough. The enemy's signals have ceased. Their fleets are gone. Their influence is no longer detectable." "That's not understanding," Elias said quietly. "That's absence." A pause settled between them, thin but present. "You distrust the outcome," Thesha said. "I distrust conclusions that arrive too quickly." Before she could respond, a subtle shift moved through the chamber. The projection flickered, not enough to disrupt the image, but enough to draw attention. A new data stream appeared along the periphery, lines of coded transmission resolving into text. High speaker Reeler paused mid-address. "Report." An attendant stepped forward, adjusting a floating console. "Delayed transmission from medical frigate Kestrel 9, sector boundary Theta 7. Proceed." The attendant hesitated, then activated the feed. The chamber dimmed as the holographic display shifted. The triumphant battle loop dissolved, replaced by a grainy interior shot of a medical bay. Rows of bodies lay secured on diagnostic platforms. The lighting was clinical, sterile, until it wasn't. "Recording begins post-engagement," the attendant said. "All personnel confirmed deceased prior to retrieval." A figure in the background moved. At first, it was subtle, a twitch in the hand of a fallen soldier. Barely noticeable. Then the movement repeated, more pronounced. Fingers curled, then straightened. A murmur spread through the chamber. "Residual nerve activity," one of the counselors said, almost immediately. "Common after high-intensity neural shock." Elias didn't respond. He leaned slightly forward, eyes narrowing. On the feed, the soldier's arm lifted a few centimeters, then dropped. Another body, farther back, shifted. A shoulder rolled. A head tilted at an unnatural angle. "This is within expected parameters," another voice added. "Delayed synaptic discharge." The body in the center of the frame sat up. The chamber fell silent. The movement was not erratic. It was deliberate. The soldier's torso rose in a controlled motion, as though responding to a command rather than a reflex. Its head turned slowly, scanning the room. "Pause the feed," Reeler ordered. The image froze. The soldier remained upright, caught mid-turn. "Explain," the high speaker said. The attendant's hands moved across the interface. We are still analyzing. It is a malfunction, Counselor Veth declared. The feed is corrupted. Elias stepped forward before he realized he had moved. Play it, he said. Reeler's gaze shifted to him. Commander Varen, this is a technical matter. Play it, Elias repeated, his voice steady. A beat passed. Then Reeler gave a small, reluctant nod. The feed resumed. The soldier completed its turn. Its eyes opened. There was no confusion in them. No disorientation. Just focus. It swung its legs over the side of the platform and stood. No, Thesha murmured, almost to herself. Another body moved. Then another. The room on the feed, once still, became a slow, coordinated awakening. One by one, the fallen rose. Stop, someone said. Stop the feed. It cut to black. Silence pressed in from all sides. Residual motor function, Veth insisted, though the certainty had drained from his tone. Anomalous, but not indicative of. Of what? Elias asked. No one answered. Elias turned to face the assembly. You're looking at coordinated movement. Sequential activation. That's not random discharge. We lack full context, Reeler said. It is premature to draw conclusions. It's premature to celebrate, Elias countered. A ripple of unease moved through the chamber. What are you suggesting? Thesha asked, her voice calm but sharper now. Elias met her gaze. Quarantine all recovery operations. Immediate incineration protocols for all casualties. No exceptions. The reaction was immediate. Unacceptable, Veth said. We have wounded across multiple systems. I said casualties, Elias cut in. The dead. The war is over, another counselor said. Such measures would incite panic. The war is not over, Elias said. Reeler raised a hand, silencing the room. Commander Varen, your caution is noted. However, the Council will not enact extreme measures based on a single irregular report. Elias held his ground. Then send observers. Confirm it. But do something. We will review the data, Reeler said, finality settling into his tone. Until then, standard protocols remain in effect. Elias didn't argue further. There was no point. Not yet. The chamber slowly returned to motion, but the energy had shifted. The celebration had fractured, its certainty replaced by something quieter, more fragile. Elias stepped back into the shadow of the column. Thesha joined him again, though her composure had thinned. If you are correct, she said softly, this changes everything. Elias watched the darkened projection space. We didn't end anything, he said. A new alert chimed, sharper this time, urgent. The attendant froze, then turned slowly toward the high speaker. Another transmission, he said. Same sector. Display it, Reeler ordered. The feed snapped into existence. The medical bay again, but closer now. The camera lay at an angle, as if dropped. The floor dominated the frame. Footsteps entered view. Not rushed. Not erratic. Measured. A figure stopped directly in front of the lens. The same soldier from before. It looked down. For a moment, nothing moved. Then its lips parted slightly, not in speech, but in something resembling recognition. The feed cut. No one spoke. Elias closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. We didn't kill them, he said. His voice carried in the silence, steady and unyielding. We fed them. The celebration did not end so much as it collapsed. Within an hour of the second transmission, the Citadel shifted from ceremony to containment. The banners were gone. The hallways emptied of diplomats and filled with security units moving in quiet urgency. Doors sealed. Channels rerouted. Every system began filtering for one thing: confirmation. It came faster than anyone expected. Commander Elias Varen stood in a restricted operations chamber 3 levels beneath the council floor. The room was smaller than the grand halls above, built for clarity rather than spectacle. A curved wall of displays wrapped around the space, each one streaming live data, fleet positions, medical reports, environmental scans. The air carried a low mechanical hum, steady and unyielding. "Report," Elias said. A human technician at the central console didn't look away from her screen. 17 confirmed incidents across 6 systems. Same pattern. Post-mortem activity escalating into full motor control. Time between death and reactivation? Varies. Shortest recorded interval, 3 minutes. Longest, 9 hours. Elias folded his arms. Spread rate? We're still mapping it, she said. But it's not random. That confirmed his worst suspicion. A secondary display activated. Thesha stepped into view, her image projected with sharp precision. "The Council has convened an emergency session," she said. "They request your presence." "They'll have it," Elias replied. "But not yet." Her gaze flicked briefly to the data streams behind him. "You believe this is systemic?" "I know it is," he said. "The only question is how it propagates." A voice from the far side of the room interrupted. "Commander." Elias turned. A xenobiology specialist, thin, pale, eyes wide from lack of rest, gestured toward a containment feed. "We have a live subject." The display shifted. A secured observation chamber appeared. Reinforced walls, sterilized surfaces, no external access. At its center stood a figure, once a soldier. Now something else. It moved with unsettling precision. "Recovered from Kestrel 9, the scientist said. "We isolated it before it could leave the bay." Elias stepped closer to the screen. The figure's head turned, not toward any visible stimulus, but directly toward the camera. "Does it see us?" Elias asked. "Unlikely," the scientist replied. "There's no visual link." The figure took a step forward. "Then what is it responding to?" No one answered. The subject's movements were controlled, almost restrained. It did not thrash or lunge. It tested the space, touching the wall, pausing, adjusting. Its fingers traced the surface, as if learning its boundaries. "Muscle degradation should limit function," the scientist said, more to himself than anyone else. "But it's compensating." "How?" Elias asked. "Unknown. Neural scans show foreign structure within the brainstem. It's reorganizing." The subject stopped moving. For a moment, it stood perfectly still. Then it raised its hand and struck the wall. Not wildly. Precisely. A single impact. The reinforced surface held, but the force was measured, calculated. "It's testing resistance," Elias said. "Yes," the scientist whispered. "And adjusting output accordingly." Elias felt a cold certainty settle in. "It's learning." The word hung in the air. Another alert cut through the room. "Commander," the technician said. "Containment breach. Facility Delta 4. The central display shifted again. A different location, larger, less controlled. Multiple bodies on the floor. Medical personnel scrambling. "Show me the timeline," Elias said. The feed rewound, then played forward at accelerated speed. One body moved. Then two. Then all of them. The staff attempted to restrain the first subject. It responded instantly, grabbing, twisting, breaking free with efficiency that spoke of experience. Within seconds, the entire room turned chaotic. "Stop," Elias said. The feed froze on a single frame, a cluster of reanimated figures, moving in coordination. "They're not acting independently," Elias said. "They're synchronizing." The scientist nodded slowly. "We're detecting low-frequency signal emissions. Not electromagnetic. Something else." "Define something else." "We can't. It doesn't match any known spectrum." Elias exhaled sharply. "So we're dealing with a network we can't see, can't track, and can't predict." "Correct." Another alert. "Commander, we've lost Delta 4, the technician said. "No remaining life signs, human or otherwise. Elias stared at the frozen image. They didn't just kill them, he said quietly. No, the scientist replied. They converted them. The implication settled heavily. Every loss wasn't just a casualty. It was reinforcement. Elias turned to the room. All units, listen carefully. From this moment forward, recovery protocols are suspended. No body retrieval. No medical stabilization of confirmed fatalities. The technician hesitated. Those orders haven't been authorized by the Council. They are now, Elias said. Transmit under my command authority. Thesha's image flickered again, sharper this time. You are exceeding your mandate, she said. I'm preventing collapse, Elias replied. The Council requires consensus. The Council requires time we don't have, he cut in. They're adapting faster than we are. Her gaze hardened. You're asking us to abandon our dead. I'm asking you to stop feeding the enemy. Silence. Then, quietly, prove it. Elias gestured toward the containment feed. Watch. The subject inside the chamber had not moved since its last strike. Until now. It stepped back. Adjusted its stance. Then struck the wall again. Same point. Greater force. A faint fracture line appeared. Impact optimization, the scientist said, voice trembling. It's refining its approach. The subject paused once more. Then it turned, slowly, toward the opposite wall. Why change direction? Thesha asked. Elias's eyes narrowed. Because it learned something. The subject crossed the chamber and struck the new surface. The sound was different, hollow. A weaker section. It hit again. And again. Each strike more precise than the last. It mapped the structure, Elias said. In seconds. The wall buckled. The chamber alarm activated. Containment failing, the technician said. Security protocols engaged automatically, energy fields snapping into place, isolating the breach. The subject stopped moving, as if recognizing the new barrier. Then it reached out and touched the field. Not randomly. Deliberately. It's testing that too, the scientist whispered. Elias turned back to Thesha. This isn't reanimation, he said. It's occupation. Something is inside them, using them, improving them. And you believe it's connected, she said. I know it is. Every unit we've seen behaves the same way. Same progression. Same efficiency curve. A pause. Then, reluctantly, if you're right, conventional engagement will accelerate their growth. Yes. Another alert cut through the room. Commander, the technician said, voice tight. We're receiving multiple synchronized signals from outer sectors. All infected zones, they're moving. Moving where? Elias asked. The display shifted to a star map. Points of red lit across multiple systems. Then, slowly, they began to converge. Towards central infrastructure, the technician said. Communications hubs. Power relays. Defense grids. Elias felt the final piece fall into place. They're not spreading blindly, he said. Thesha's voice was quieter now. They're targeting us. No, Elias corrected. He stared at the converging points, his expression hardening. They're dismantling us. The chamber fell silent again, but this time it wasn't uncertainty that filled it. It was understanding. Elias spoke without raising his voice. They remember how we fight, he said. And now they're choosing how to win. By the time the council reconvened, the word containment had already lost its meaning. Alien Prime's orbital network flickered under strain. Ships held position in rigid formations that no longer responded to centralized command. Across the chamber, status projections shifted from stable blue to fractured amber, then to a steady, unignorable red. Entire sectors blinked out, no distress calls, no data, just absence. Commander Elias Varen stood at the center of the emergency floor, no longer an observer. The architecture that once symbolized unity now amplified tension. Every voice echoed sharper, Every movement felt deliberate. Report, High Speaker Reeler demanded. A communications officer stepped forward, hands unsteady. We've lost confirmed contact with 12 systems. Partial signals from 8 more. Transmission degradation suggests infrastructure failure. Cause? Reeler asked. The officer hesitated. Unknown. Elias didn't wait. Not unknown, he said. Targeted. Several counselors turned toward him at once. Explain, Thesha said. Elias gestured toward the star map suspended above the chamber. Red markers clustered in deliberate arcs, patterns that mirrored the Council's own network architecture. They're not expanding outward, he said. They're collapsing us inward. Communications, power, defense, every system that keeps us coordinated is being dismantled first. That assumes intent, Counselor Veth said sharply. You're attributing strategy to something that learns, Elias interrupted. We've already seen it adapt in confined environments. Now scale that across multiple worlds. The chamber stirred with unease. Reeler raised a hand. Even if we accept that premise, the Council retains fleet superiority. We can redeploy. A sharp alarm cut through his words. Every display in the chamber shifted simultaneously. Live footage filled the air. A defense platform above Elian Prime rotated into view. Its surface bristled with weapon arrays, each one tracking invisible targets. For a moment it held steady. Then one turret fired. Not outward. Inward. The blast struck a neighboring platform. Metal ruptured. Secondary explosions followed in rapid succession, cascading across the orbital line. What is happening? Thesha demanded. Command override, an engineer said, voice rising. The platform isn't responding to control inputs. Elias watched the sequence unfold, jaw tightening. They've accessed the system. That's impossible, Veth snapped. No external force has that level of. Not external, Elias said. The realization hit the room all at once. Internal, Thesha finished quietly. The footage shifted again. This time, it showed a ground-level command center. Personnel moved between stations, urgency replacing protocol. A body lay near the entrance, still. Then it moved. The nearest officer turned too late. The reanimated figure closed the distance in a single motion, efficient and direct. Others followed. The room dissolved into chaos. Cut the feed, someone said. No, Elias said. Leave it. The attack was not random. The reanimated units moved with purpose, bypassing irrelevant targets, focusing on control nodes. One reached a console, its hands moving across the interface with practiced precision. They remember, Elias said. Or something remembers for them, Thesha replied. The distinction no longer mattered. Reeler's voice cut through the noise. All systems initiate lockdown. Sever external access points. Isolate compromised sectors. Too late, Elias said. The High Speaker turned on him. You will explain that statement. Elias stepped forward, pointing to the map. Look at the timing. These attacks are synchronized. That means they're communicating faster than we can react. Lockdowns won't stop them, they'll just redirect. Redirect to where? Veth demanded. Elias met his gaze. Here. The implication landed heavily. A new alert flared. Surface breach in the lower districts, the communications officer said. Civilian zones. Deploy security units, Reeler ordered. They're already engaged, the officer replied. Losses are escalating. The chamber screens split again. Streets once filled with orderly transit now ran with panic. Figures moved through the chaos, some fleeing, others pursuing. The distinction blurred as the fallen rose and joined the latter. They're spreading beyond military zones, Thesha said. Elias nodded. They don't need specialized hosts anymore. They've learned enough. How? Veth asked, disbelief edging into his tone. There's no known vector. There doesn't have to be a conventional one, Elias said. We're looking for infection. This isn't infection. It's integration. Define the difference, Thesha said. Elias didn't take his eyes off the feed. Infection changes a host. Integration uses it. Every body becomes a node. A brief silence followed. Then every death, Thesha began, adds to their network, Elias finished. The room felt smaller. Reeler's composure cracked, just slightly. What are you proposing? Elias turned to face the council fully. Immediate isolation of all compromised zones. Orbital denial if necessary. The reaction was immediate. You're suggesting we destroy our own worlds, Theth said. I'm suggesting we stop them from becoming staging grounds, Elias replied. Billions of lives are already at risk, Elias cut in. If we hesitate, those numbers don't stay static. They multiply. The chamber erupted into overlapping voices. We cannot authorize such action without. This is genocide. There must be another. Enough! Reeler's voice thundered, silencing the room. He looked at Elias. You ask us to make an irreversible decision based on incomplete data. Elias held his gaze. You're already making one by doing nothing. Another alarm. This one closer. Internal breach, the communications officer said, voice barely controlled. Lower levels of the Citadel. Every head turned. Elias didn't hesitate. Seal the access corridors. Deploy containment fields. Security is responding, the officer said. But they're reporting resistance. Resistance? Veth repeated. The answer came in the form of a new feed. A corridor within the Citadel. White marble now streaked with dark smears. Security units advanced in formation, weapons raised. A figure stepped into view. Then another. Then a line of them. Not rushing. Not charging. Advancing. One of the security officers fired. The shot struck center mass. The figure staggered, but did not fall. It adjusted its stance and continued forward. They're compensating, Elias said. Redistributing load across the body. Another shot. Another adjustment. They're learning mid-engagement, Thesha said, her voice tight. The line of figures broke formation, spreading, flanking, forcing the security units to reposition. They're using our tactics, Elias said. The first security line collapsed within seconds. The feed cut. Silence returned, heavier than before. Reeler looked at Elias, the weight of command settling visibly on him. If we grant you authority, he said slowly, you will act without delay. Yes. And you accept full responsibility for the consequences. Elias didn't hesitate. I accept responsibility for inaction as well. I won't choose it. A long pause. Then Reeler nodded once. Commander Elias Varen, he said, voice steady despite everything. The Council grants you operational command. Do what you must. The words settled into the chamber like a final threshold crossed. Elias turned back to the displays. Outside, the orbital network burned. Below, the city fractured. Within, the Citadel itself was no longer secure. He spoke quietly, but every word carried. This isn't a war, he said. No one argued. Elias watched as another sector marker shifted from amber to red. They're not trying to defeat us, he continued. A new signal appeared, massive, centralized, pulsing with coherence. They're converting us. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as power rerouted to failing systems. For the first time since the celebration began, there was no illusion left to hold on to. Only the truth remained. And it was worse than any enemy they had imagined. The first thing Elias Varen did with full command authority was stop killing. The order moved through fractured channels, carried by priority overrides and stripped-down encryption. It reached fleets already mid-engagement, ground units holding crumbling lines, isolated squads preparing last stands. The message was brief. Do not terminate reanimated targets. Disable. Contain. Avoid additional casualties at all costs. The responses ranged from confusion to outright refusal. "They're advancing on our position," a field captain transmitted from the lower districts of Elian Prime. Smoke blurred the feed. Alarms howled behind him. "You're telling me to hold fire?" "I'm telling you to change it," Elias said. "Use concussive rounds. Aim for joints. Immobilize, don't destroy. That won't stop them. It will slow them," Elias replied. "And it won't strengthen them." The captain hesitated, then nodded once. "Understood." The channel cut. Around Elias, the operations chamber had transformed. The curved displays no longer tracked victories or losses. They tracked patterns, movement density, signal fluctuations, zones of rapid adaptation. Data replaced spectacle. Survival replaced pride. Thesha stood at his side, her gaze fixed on a central projection that pulsed with faint, irregular light. "You're asking every species to abandon their doctrine," she said. "I'm asking them to survive long enough to build a new one. They will resist. They already are," Elias said. "But resistance isn't the same as refusal. Not when the alternative is extinction." A technician leaned forward, adjusting a series of overlapping graphs. "Commander, we're seeing something. Signal variance across disabled units." "Show me." The display shifted. A cluster of markers, previously bright and active, dimmed unevenly. "They're losing synchronization," the technician said. "Not completely, but enough to disrupt coordination." Elias studied the pattern. "What changed?" "Those units were neutralized with nonlethal force," she replied. "No structural destruction. Just immobilization." Thesha's eyes narrowed. "So the network depends on integrity of the host. Or clarity of the signal," Elias said. "Either way, damage introduces noise." He turned to the room. "We exploit that." A new series of orders went out, this time more specific. Target neural pathways without catastrophic damage. Use electromagnetic disruption. Prioritize isolation over elimination. Within minutes, reports began to return. "Engagement Team Delta 7. A soldier's voice crackled. "Deploying EMP burst now." The feed stabilized just long enough to show the effect. A pulse rippled outward, silent, invisible. The advancing figures staggered, their movements losing precision. Some halted entirely. Others continued, but slower, less coordinated. "It's working," the soldier said, disbelief edging his tone. "There." A second wave of units entered the frame, moving with sharper alignment. "Adapting," Elias finished. The connection dropped. He didn't flinch. "They'll compensate," he said. "We stay ahead." "How?" Thesha asked. Elias gestured toward the pulsing projection. "We find the source." The signal had been growing stronger, subtle at first, now undeniable. It didn't originate from a single point. It formed a convergence, a layered network tightening toward a central node. "Trace it," Elias said. The technician's hands moved quickly. "It's not a fixed location. It's shifting, reconfiguring based on available hosts." "Then we don't chase it," Elias said. "We force it to stabilize." Thesha tilted her head. "Explain." "We reduce its options," he said. "Limit viable hosts. Contain the spread. It'll concentrate where it has control. And then?" Elias met her gaze. "Then we hit it where it can't adapt fast enough." Silence followed, not from doubt, but from the scale of what he proposed. "You're describing a controlled contraction," Thesha said. "A deliberate sacrifice of territory." "I'm describing survival," Elias replied. Orders shifted again. Fleets repositioned not to engage, but to block. Entire sectors were sealed off, their access points collapsed or disabled. Ground units fell back in measured patterns, herding the advancing reclaimed into narrowing corridors of space. It wasn't clean. It wasn't perfect. But it worked. The signal began to tighten. "Convergence accelerating," the technician reported. "We're seeing increased density in the central cluster." "Location?" Elias asked. She hesitated. Alien Prime. The room stilled. Of course it is, Elias said quietly. Thesha's voice dropped. The Citadel. The heart of the Council. The most connected structure in the system. The most valuable. The most vulnerable. Elias straightened. Prepare a strike team. Strike team? Thesha repeated. You intend to engage it directly? I intend to disrupt it, he said. We don't destroy the node. We fracture its control. That requires proximity. I'm aware. She studied him for a moment. You're going? Yes. A pause. Then I am as well, she said. Elias didn't argue. Minutes later, the team assembled in a lower access bay. Human soldiers stood alongside alien counterparts, their equipment modified for non-lethal engagement, EMP emitters, kinetic dampeners, containment fields. No one spoke about odds. They didn't need to. The descent into the Citadel's deeper levels felt different from the chaos above. Here, the air was still, the corridors intact. Too intact. They're not defending this approach, one of the soldiers murmured. They don't need to, Elias said. They're waiting. The first sign came as a shift in the lights. Not a flicker, but a subtle dimming, as if the structure itself were breathing. Then the signal hit. Not audible, not visible, but felt. A pressure behind the eyes. A pull at the edges of thought. Maintain focus, Elias said. Stay linked. They moved forward. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, once a data nexus, now something else. Bodies lined the walls. Not fallen. Placed. Each one connected by thin, filament-like structures that pulsed faintly with the same rhythm as the signal. At the center, a mass had formed, not a single entity, but a convergence of many, layered into something larger. It shifted as they entered. Not toward them. Toward the field. It's aware, Thesha said. Good, Elias replied. So are we. He raised his hand. Deploy. The team activated their emitters. A wave of interference rolled outward. The response was immediate. The mass convulsed, not violently, but disruptively. The pulsing signal fractured, splitting into uneven patterns. The filaments flickered. It's destabilizing, the technician reported through the comm. Maintain pressure, Elias said. The reclaimed responded. The bodies along the walls began to move, tearing free from their connections, stepping forward with renewed urgency. But their coordination faltered. Movements overlapped, collided, lost efficiency. They're losing synchronization, Thesha said. Push harder. The emitters intensified. The central mass shuddered, its structure collapsing inward, then expanding again in uneven surges. For a moment, it seemed to hold. Then something shifted. The signal, once unified, fractured completely. The bodies halted. Some collapsed. Others stood, but without direction. The chamber fell into a strange, fragile stillness. Elias lowered his hand slowly. Report, he said. Signal coherence dropped to minimal levels, the technician replied. Network integrity compromised. Not destroyed, Thesha said. No, Elias agreed. But controlled. He looked at the motionless forms around them. They'll adapt, he said. They always do. Thesha stepped beside him. And so will we. Above them, the citadel stabilized. Across the system, red markers dimmed to amber, then to uncertain gray. Not victory. Not yet. But not collapse either. Elias exhaled, the tension easing just enough to breathe. We don't win by ending this, he said quietly. Thesha glanced at him. Then how? Elias watched as one of the fallen twitched, just slightly, a reminder of what remained. We win, he said, by refusing to lose.